everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back with another Twitter thread. God, hope Elon Musk doesn't ban these. Today we are looking at a very strange array of cards. So, if you're unfamiliar, Yu-Gi-Oh's only got the one format. And this means that cards from 2022 occasionally run up against design choices made by people who are now dead and were designing in 2002. This means that sometimes there are interactions Konami didn't plan, search targets Konami didn't account for, and they result in formats that Konami didn't want to be playable. So today we're looking at some synergies that Konami missed, but the players got. I'm going to start with a really easy one. Return of the Monarchs is a Monarch search spell, but the Monarchs aren't searched by their name. They're searched by their stat line. When you tribute a monster, you can search a monster with either 2400 attack or 2800 attack and 1000 defense. This means that effectively any monster with those stats is a Monarch, including Dark Arm Dragon. Now, what could this be used for? I don't know, nothing really particularly relevant. It was just very funny. Some people tried it, but it was bad. You contribute a level 4 or lower Frightfur, Fluffle, or Edge Imp to special summon a Fiend monster with the same level, but a different name. Can search Lilith, Lady of Lament. This was used in Giant Skyhawk's build, which he was able to do extremely well at a YCS with, to search 3 copies of Necrofusion. It's funny. I don't think it's particularly good, but it did become relevant once. We all know the Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres summon a Floodgate interaction, like Amorphage Goliath, but Dragon's Bind doesn't say the target has to have below 2500 original attack, which means you can Seals into Amorphage Goliath into Dragon's Bind to create a lock where you can't summon from the extra deck or special any monster below 2750 attack. Wait, that's actually kind of crazy. Except they can normal summon a monster and attack over it. This is funny. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Horse Prince, when it's synchro summoned, can specially level 3 fire monster from your deck, including Gren Maju. Why would you want to do this? I don't know. Coder says, this one was always funny to me. That is true. Blackbeard, the Plunder Patrol captain, can target a monster you control. That monster becomes an equipped spell attached to a Plunder Patrol monster with the same attribute as a monster your opponent controls or has in the graveyard. And if Dragon Buster Destruction Sword is an equipped monster, then it's an extra deck lock. Theoretically, you could do this. I have no idea how you're summoning Dragon Buster Destruction Sword in Plunder because so many of their cards lock you into Plunder monsters. So, Cursed Eyes says, if you control Traptrix Rafflesia and your opponent uses Dark Hole, you can send a trap card Hole to the graveyard to activate Rafflesia's effect, including White Hole. White Hole says if your opponent activates Dark Hole, monsters you control can't be destroyed by that Dark Hole's effect. Now, this would usually do nothing because Traptrix Rafflesia is unaffected by trap effects while it has Xyz material, but White Hole in this specific scenario becomes her monster effect, and therefore she protects herself. Very stupid, unintuitive, and will literally never come up. Boy, you all can't get over Whitehole, huh? Man, I don't want to do another Plunder one, but this is so funny. Fateful Adventure protects monsters that have an equipped spell card attached to them from being destroyed by battle once per turn. All of the Plunders are therefore protected under Fateful Adventure, which is already good in the Plunder deck. Some of the new Karibo support doesn't call their monsters Karibos, but instead uses a 300 attack point and 200 defense point stat line as its requirement. This applies to way more than Karibos, including a ton of white monsters, Skull Servant, Spirit Reaper, Charming Resort Staff, Metaphys Decoy Dragon, Laval Forest Sprite, and Cyber Petite Angel. Skull Servant Karibo real? So Adia the Heavenly Squire is another one of the Monarch cards. The Monarchs are a stat line of 2800 and 2400 and 1000 defense, but the Squires are a stat line of 800, 1000. So Adia can special summon a monster with 800 and 1000 from your deck and defense position, including S-Force Rappa Chiyomaru. In fact, some S-Force players play this as their starter in order to get more material on the field. That's pretty funny. So Spell Chronicle, in Konami's defense, I don't think anyone knew what this card does. This card can be activated by sending your entire hand to the graveyard. You banish 5 spells and traps from your deck, and then each time your opponent activates a spell card, you put a Chronicle counter on this, blah, 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 blah. Listen, all you need to know are those first 2 lines, because it combos really well with Witchcrafter Patronus. This card, any turn after the turn it was sent to the graveyard, can be banished to target any number of your banished Witchcrafter spells with different names and add them to your hand. So by activating Chronicle and then getting a Patronus into the graveyard, you can add 5 different spells from your deck to your hand. But that's not all. The downside to this card is that you send your entire hand to the graveyard, except Witchcrafter is playing a hand full of cards that add themselves back to the hand at the end of the turn anyway. In this deck particularly, it's like a +7. Diviner of the Heralds is a really powerful card. If this card is tributed, you get to summon a level 1 fairy from your deck. But it doesn't necessarily say tributed for a ritual summon. It also triggers if you normal summon over this monster, if you tribute it for something like an Abiru, or if you pay the cost for a card like Monster Gate. As a result, Cursed Eyes plays in their build of Super Quantums, Monster Gate and Enemy Controller to send the Diviner of the Heralds to the graveyard and summon an Alfan from deck. If you're unfamiliar, Pre-Preparation of Rites is a card that searches both a ritual spell and a ritual monster, provided that the monster's name is listed on the ritual spell. I'll just read you the text. Add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, and add one ritual monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand whose name is listed on the ritual spell. Chaos Form is a ritual spell that lists Blackluster Soldier, Blue Eyes White Dragon, and Dark Magician. However, you cannot activate Pre-Preparation of Rites in order to search because Dark Magician is not a ritual monster, except Magician of Chaos, the Dark Magician ritual monster, counts as Dark Magician in the graveyard exactly. So Pre-Preparation of Rites can add exactly from deck to hand a Chaos Form, and from graveyard to hand a Magician of Chaos because it is considered a Dark Magician. The only scenario in which you are able to search that under Chaos Form. Shadow Mist searches a Change Quick Play spell card from your deck to your hand. Now, this is meant to search Mask Change or Mask Change 2, but it can also search Geargia Change, which targets 2 or more Geargiano monsters with different names in your graveyard, special summons them, then Xyz summons an Xyz monster using the summoned monsters. I don't know. Maybe Hero Geargia? So, Expressroid is one of Cyrus's monsters from the second series of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. The Roid monsters are anthropomorphic machines, things like mixers or trains or ambulances. And Expressroid targets 2 Roid monsters in your graveyard and adds them to your hand. Now, unfortunately, Roid is an archetype that doesn't only refer to Cyrus's monsters. The Speed Roids were released later, and that's why new Roid monsters say non-wind Roids. But there's still a lot of corner cases it doesn't account for, like technically, Elemental Hero Neck Roid Shaman is a Roid, as is Dark Jaya Roid and Magical Android. Pre-errata, 100 Eyes Dragon was a Red Eyes card. Red Eyes Dragon. Thankfully, they changed it by removing the hyphen. All right, I almost didn't want to do this one because I don't want people figuring it out. But Rite of Aramasir says you can't activate the effects of